Welcome to Stranger Connections, where I celebrate wonderfully weird people and quirky stories. I'm your curious beast and host, lisadavidolson, the practically world-famous business humorist and speaker coach. So invite me to come to your event and energize your team. Well, today I get to speak with an actual personal friend who's super uber famous. So please welcome to Stranger Connections, JenBarney. Thank you so much for being
Oh,
here. Woo woo.
thank you, Lisa. And not very famous, but that was a very sweet intro. Thank you.
Are you kidding me? You won at least 3 Food Network baking championship titles. How is that not fame?
Oh, I'm just a baker, like I'm just doing the best. I'm just doing the best I can.
Just a baker. I'm
Yeah,
just a mom. I just do all the things. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I am really excited to have time to speak with you, and I've always wanted to ask different things, and I know that you started out as a farm girl in Stoddard, Wisconsin, and kept your Wisconsin roots no matter where you went. That seems pretty important to you.
Yeah. My husband and I live in Stoddard now. I was raised on an acre of my grandparents' farmland, and when I was competing, or even when out in public, I really try to be very intentional about bringing it back to Wisconsin and all the beautiful things that we have here. It's just something that I really feel strongly about advocating for.
I think that's wonderful, and especially in some of your recipe videos where you actually talk about different products like Westby sour cream or things like that.
Mhm.
You're even name dropping. I don't know if that's like a NASCAR driver that you get like sponsorships or
I wish.
so now I definitely want to cover some of the contests that you've done and how that works, but now you've got the Meringue Bakery and Cafe in downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. I think that's become quite the hot spot for anybody that wants to ingest gold or things like that. Because I know I had cupcakes from there that had actual gold on them, maybe a diamond or two. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, just some diamond dust. Yeah, we have the downtown location. We've been there we're pushing into 5 years, which is just phenomenal. Like I can't even imagine how fast time went, right? It goes by
Wow.
so fast. I know. Um, and it all started with, I mean, I always knew I wanted to have a downtown location, but really the competitions catapulted that into like hyperdrive for sure.
Did you ever see yourself as a competitor that, here I am making baked goods? And didn't you start by baking when you were in the coffee shop? You were working in a coffee shop, if I remember.
Yeah, bean juice. Yeah.
Yes, I love bean
Yeah.
juice.
I mean, talk about women supporting women. Teresa at Bean Juice in La Crosse was a huge help to me in the beginning, and she allowed me to sell out of her cafe and even work there when I couldn't. When I was transitioning and starting my own business, and I couldn't go into it full time. I worked as a barista there. Yes, so I definitely started off small, and we I mean, if you were to ask me like what was your dream before the shows hit, like right before the shows hit, we had I'm actually sitting in it right now. So this is my studio bakery at my house. And we took about half of our basement and turned it into a full industrial kitchen. And I thought, okay, like I'll do, 1 or 2 weddings a week and I'll raise some kids. And that was my dream. And then maybe eventually when the kids were older, I could evolve into a downtown space. Um, and then I just this it just hit random, and I don't. You had asked if I ever wanted to compete. Yes, like in a dream maybe, but it was never something that I set out to do. Everything just kind of fell into my lap supernaturally. It didn't. I do think the one thing that maybe set us apart, or like was the seed of me competing. My husband, and he's a good guy. He learned photography for my business, and so we were always very intentional about taking really good images of our work because it's a visual medium. Um,
Yes.
and that was just the seed. Like we put it out there into the universe, into the web, and somebody saw it. That was a scout, and then I've done 5 shows in total, which is actually six, technically six. And if you and it all started, everything kind of just fell into my lap. Like I didn't seek any of that out, and it all started from good imaging. Isn't that crazy?
It makes sense because I too have a photographer, videographer hubby, and I do know this because he went around doing photos for local restaurants only to have them end up posting cell phone photos over the product, and it looked like a mess that a baby makes in their diaper. And we're like,
Yep.
why in the heck did you want all these beautiful images with fancy logos and then you use somebody's cell phone? Because that's what's in your hand, because in the moment. But it matters, because I'm not going to crave to go eat that mess. But when you see something that looks like it's steaming, or your cakes that are hand painted designs, and it looks like art, and you know that you could actually eat it, it's like it makes a difference. And how
Yeah.
wonderful that your hubby knew, okay, we're investing in this. This is what matters.
Yes. Yep.
And
Mhm.
so when you get to a contest, where was your first one? Where did you travel to?
New Orleans, and you wouldn't think that. You think that's everything's done in California, but and you would drive past it and you would never know that it was a TV studio. It's in this industrial. We have a visitor. What a honey bunny, your dog. Or is
Yes,
it a cat?
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Munch wants in. She wants to meet you.
uh, Stealing my spotlight.
I
I'm just teasing.
know.
Okay,
She's such a brat.
right? Yeah, so I went to New Orleans. The first show that I did was called Holiday Baking Championship. I mean, at this point, this is like 7 years ago or something. And it was a series that I honestly, because I like Food Network. I mean, obviously, Food Network has brought me a lot in my life, and I'm so grateful. I think just in my career, because I'm around food all day, like I don't crave watching Food Network at night because I get that 10 hours a day.
Right.
Um, and so I never really watched those shows. And for me, I didn't understand the scope of the show that I signed up for in the beginning. And I later found out later that it's definitely one of their most popular shows. And at the holiday season, it's like the most popular show that Food Network puts on. So I was super naive. Like I had no clue what I was doing, like none. And I came prepared, like as much as I could, and I really took it seriously. I had about a 1 month lead up to leaving, and I mean, I cleared my schedule. The week before, I sat in this room, and I just practiced and practiced and tried to think of the challenges they would throw at us, and you know what? And not that everything didn't hit like I thought it was going to, but I think that helped. I think that made a big difference when the competition time came, because I had some ideas or I had stories in the back of my back pocket, like with like using cranberries or trying to incorporate cows like as much as I could, or you know, like these types of things, like my heritage, bringing it to the screen. That was my goal.
I don't think other people do that as much. And I do enjoy cooking shows because I barely ever cook. So I certainly enjoy ordering food. But I think that what you did made sense, because you don't often see, I mean, some of the shows go background on people, but you don't often hear them say, this is an ale because I grew up in a pub or something like that. So I think what you
Yes.
did is
Yep.
brilliant. And
Hmm.
and we do want to know behind the scenes, and we do want to know the person, not just what they're making. So I think that's really great. So you think that week, in intensive week, which was so smart to do.
I think it gave me a huge leg up. Hmm.
Wonderful. So that's what you would tell somebody, should they be facing something that, okay, it's like I help people get a TEDx. You
Yes,
don't
a
know what to
thousand.
expect, so do all the things.
Yes, 1,000%. And even since then, I have had people come to me and ask for like their advice, or you know, and I feel like yeah, and when you're in competition mode, like you have to be. I'm so lucky because I have a huge support system, and I think that's part of it too, because I know leading up to a show that my husband will support me no matter what in it. I've done competitions with women that I've literally been in rooms with women that are on their phones with their husbands, and their husbands are like, "Why haven't you called me today?" And I'm like, she was competing all day. Like, you think she's gonna stop call you when she's on
Wow.
camera? Like, what do you think happens? So I don't.
Drama.
I feel like because of my husband and like his family and my family, like I can leave and focus, and I can do those things, and I'm so lucky that I can do that.
Right. It does take the whole family, and you
Mhm.
can tell who has that support and who doesn't. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And so that was your first one, and you actually, that New Orleans, is that the first one that you won?
That was the first one, yes. And then the next year they called me back, same show, and they were doing like a little blitz one episode champions. And so they paired it was a fun episode and they paired us up. It was even just for me to be able to meet other winners too. I mean, I still contact these people occasionally just to get their advice and just to make those connections. But in that show, I won too. So that, I mean, that was probably my favorite win, because I felt like, even though it was only one episode, I felt like it was like the cream of the crop, you know. That one felt really good, and I felt, even that day, I felt cute. You know, like when you wake up,
Yes,
and you just like, I was having a good hair day. Everything was just, and I felt like I had nothing to prove. You know, like I just came in like I'm gonna have a good time, and that was a beautiful day. I really enjoyed that one. And then I got home the next year. Food Network Canada has this show called the Big Cake, Big Shoot. I forgot. I've got it like 3 times. I forget the name of it. Big something, Big Cakes, and it was a holiday themed one. I brought this competition was different to me because I could bring a team with me. So I brought an old pastry chef friend, and Jessica, who still is at Meringue Bakery. She's been with me for a long time, and she's been a huge asset to the bakery. But she came with me, and it's the first show that I had ever done. We're making huge cakes. Like they want 5 tiers. They want mechanical aspects. They want smoke and mirrors and movement, and you know, they want everything. And I didn't love that show, and it's just not my. I think I learned it's not where my strong suit is. So we absolutely took last place in that one. Like there was no question. I think I just approached it really wrong. When you have a big cake show, you can't focus on details. You got to go like focus on big things. And I definitely did all the wrong things that you're not supposed to do, but I didn't know any better. And then, yeah, and then I'll just keep going. I'll wrap up my experience in competition really fast.
Oh,
and
I
then
love
Jessica and I, in the same year, we went to Milwaukee, and this was not televised, but we did a 2-day live competition, and that was a blast. And we had to create 3 different showpiece cakes, and we were competing against other Wisconsin bakers. And we won that. And then winning that was the ticket to go to Vegas. So we got to go to Vegas and compete in a live competition. That it was a similar format. It was 2 days long. We got to make like beautiful cakes under certain themes, and then they were rated. And then it's all about the connections you make, right? So like you meet people along the way. So we met a couple there that were from Canada, and then they asked me to compete with them the following year. So I went back. Oh, it's called the Big Bake. That's what that show is called. So I went back to the Big Bake. We definitely took 2nd place, so I'm getting better. You know, like we're getting better. And then I met another person there who led me to the next show. So it's all connected, right? And the last show that I competed with was called Holiday Wars on Food Network. That was another series show, and this one was big cakes as well, which, like I said, necessarily is my favorite type of thing to do. And obviously, I love doing cakes. I just think that the mechanical part with that is like a whole different mind that I don't know if I'm glad my husband has that mind, because I don't have that mind.
You could just frost a music box and call it good.
Right, right. That's all you have to do. It's that easy. Yeah. But luckily, I got through that show. We won, and then we took another challenge. So the 6th show that I was on was where they took the winner of Halloween Wars and pinned them against Holiday Wars, and we did a New Year's Eve special. And I was incredibly happy with our results. But those Halloween people are insane. Like that's the next level, and everybody wants to get on that show because that's the funnest one to do. And they had a sugar artist who was making like sugar cups that you could actually drink out of, and I couldn't touch that with what I had in my skill set. So they won, they deserved it, and yeah. And then that's my story of competing in all the shows that I've done.
But it sounds almost like getting into science. You're getting away from bakery and you're getting into construction, and then you're getting into science, because drinking out of sugar doesn't make sense scientifically. Somebody's doing something. But I mean, they're probably using a 3D printer, but putting in
Yeah.
ingredients. So I
Do you
don't
know
know.
do you know what, Lisa? That's what the market demands right now. And I'm not, I love it. So my husband's very technically minded, and we have a 3D printer, we have a laser print, we have a laser machine. I don't know what you call it, but
Wow.
he prints me things almost on a weekly basis for the bakery. And it's like custom. Last week he made me a custom cow cookie cutter that he 3D printed. So there's all these things, or he's made me
Wow.
stencils, custom stencils, or he's always, but that's, I feel like if you want to stay ahead of and all with all the Instagram trends, like you have to have those things at your disposal.
True. And if he's like my hubby, I can tell he's probably the same as this is great to help you out, but I wouldn't want to be doing this full time. It's fun and I did the
Yes.
one and now that's great. Like Todd will work with wood and he's like, there, I made that. That's nice. Oh, would you ever want to make a bunch and sell them? No, actually,
No.
no. I
No.
did the one and it was nice.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Yes.
different than us wanting to keep doing it. But again, you wouldn't want to make the same cake. Now, when you did the contest, did everybody get a prize or is it only the first place person?
Only the first place. And
Wow.
right. So like really, if you don't win, you're at a financial loss. It's not like, because you're giving up time away and that's all expensive. And it's, you know, I really wish at some point, I wish that competition shows would maybe reimburse a living wage while you're filming. Like I feel
Hmm.
like that's a fair thing to ask, but maybe someday we'll get there.
Right. That's a lot of
Mhm.
times like in speaking, you're paying to get there and then you might get paid to speak, you might not. It just depends on the gig. But yeah, and then ends up costing you away from work and the mileage.
Right?
So that is tough, but at least it's opening up a little bit more. So then the
Oh, it
times
is.
that you didn't win first place, did you end up paying for travel?
They pay for travel. And they do take very good care of you. Like it's their job. They've got people there that are like wranglers that making sure you're eating. Like it's not like it's like I don't want to give that impression at all.
Right.
But
Right.
but genuinely, if you don't win, like I've competed with people that have lost their jobs because like their employer wouldn't give them time off, but this has been their dream. So like, what are you supposed to do? So I've worked with multiple people that have quit because they want to do a competition, and then you have to be able to financially support yourself. If you're, how many people can take off work for a week and that's okay, like that's
Right.
not real life for a lot of people. And
It,
so those types of, that's just real.
oh, wow, that's a lot to think about. And that goes to
Mhm.
show the driving force that you were against and will be again, because it sounds like you get invited a lot. Um, and you also were featured, your story was featured in one of Amanda Zieba's books, right?
Yeah, isn't that so cool? Isn't that the best? Amanda's amazing, just in general. If you've never read any of her books, she's a local author in La Crosse, and it's very loosely inspired. So she had a cookbook, or I'm sorry, that's my world. She has a book that it was about a chocolatier from Duluth who fell in love and threw caution to the wind and opened up a chocolate shop in Superior or somewhere. And so at the same time, I think that book was finishing up, I was starting my first competition, and it inspired her to continue that story where the woman goes in the second book, she competes. So yeah, and there isn't that, but it is cool
It's a very
and
good series, yes.
yes, yeah. Mhm.
I love that because I remember at her opening her book launch and you were there and it was like, aha, this is all together. Okay, I get this
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
That is fantastic and I think it's so fun. Um, when the food that you make at the shows, what happens to it? Where does it
Um,
go?
you, I think people get offended when I say it gets discarded, but you don't want to eat that food. Like it's good. I mean, it's good food, but it's also prepared by people who are in a hurry and like they're maybe not like washing their hands entirely, like for 60 seconds or 30 seconds like you're supposed to.
Singing the
I just
alphabet. Yeah.
and Yes, and I think because when you're in these types of challenges, um, it's just not practical. It's just, and I know that that's sad to say, but I feel like of all the food waste in all the world, like like that's the one it's okay to let go.
So then
Does
when
that
they're
make sense?
judging the taste, then they must be giving allowance
They,
for that?
they yes, of course the judges try it, they eat it,
Yeah.
but then the food, it goes into a dumpster.
Oh, I bet
And
there's a lot of people backstage getting it out of the dumpster though.
yeah, I'm sure that they take some home. I have heard of like it was actually a huge honor. One of like a really fancy chef that is always all over Food Network. I did a competition once and they reached out to me like on my way out and said that they had taken the leftover cake, my cake, so that their family could eat it because it was so good. Like that makes me feel good. You know, isn't that
So
cool?
great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And in having your shop now, what is something that you do on the regular that you didn't expect, because you've had this dream of the actual bakery that's outside of the
Right.
home, and now you have that. And what's something maybe that you didn't expect would happen with the brick and mortar?
You know, I think it's been a huge learning curve, and it's not always the easiest thing for me because I just like to bake. Like if I could be in a kitchen all day, just focused on making something beautiful, that's really where my heart is. But the reality of it is if I want to create this for lacrosse, I have to own a business, which is totally different rules, you know, like what you're supposed to do. So I think what I didn't expect, or maybe I knew it, but I didn't expect the extremeness of it, is I'm really not in the kitchen that much. Like I am a filler. So if somebody is sick, or like I'm the person that puts out fires, um, or you know, if there's just a lull with hiring, like you know, a 2 week stretch that a shift is open. But really, between that and just managing people and making menus and doing social media and like that's my job right now. And
Mm,
I think that sometimes that makes me really sad, but then it makes me excited too. It's like a double-edged sword. Does that make sense?
it does. It does.
Yeah.
Because yes, and people don't understand when you, even if you're a comic and you're on the road, you are a business manager and you are doing the marketing and all the
Yes.
producing. And it's not just, I'm going to go tell jokes. No, you are a business now. And I totally
Yes.
get that. That's amazing to
Mhm.
me that you still get to do it all. Maybe you could set up having a vacation and then come in incognito and just be the new baker. Just
That
pretend that
would
you're
be
not Jen.
right.
So
Have no
just a
worries.
thought.
Just come in and bake and then clock out and go home. That would be the dream.
And
Mhm.
so with your, do you have a favorite wedding cake you've done, a theme or a design?
Oh my gosh, I got so many. You know what it is? I love when a couple is so sweet and they're so nice and you just have this heart to want to make them something beautiful. And it's really rewarding for me when they want me to be creative because not everybody wants a ridiculously artistic cake. Most of them just want a basic wedding cake. But the ones that do, I love that process of sketching and working with them and looking at their wedding design and getting the feel, you know. And I love
Yeah.
walking into their space when it's the day of their wedding and you or their party, and you can see how my little cake fits the whole room, and it all
Oh,
comes together. And it's really it's one of the best feelings. It really is.
that's it. Yes. That's the icing on the cake of the whole wedding, literally.
Yes,
Didn't you do a
if they're a great
camouflage?
client to work with. But most of my 90% of my clients are amazing, and I want to be best friends with. Like I want to be best friends with them, which is kind of inappropriate. But there's always a couple that I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this wedding to get over, and that's
Oh yeah.
normal. Yeah.
It is normal since my hubby used to have the entertainment business of DJ work, and it was generally it was the mother of the bride that was hard for that area, but that was a
Yep.
generalization. And didn't you do a camouflage cake once? Or am I making that up? I
Oh,
feel
I'm
like there was
sure.
it was a long
I
time
don't
ago.
know
It
if
was
it's.
like somebody had a outdoor wedding. They wanted it very redneck, and you made it like almost too pretty. I feel like it was a camouflage, but maybe I dreamt it, Jen. I don't know.
I don't know. We do it all.
I know you do. I think that's great. Well, this has been fantastic, but I can't let you go until you tell me if you have a dare or a prank story, one you've done or had done to you, or one of those great stories we all like to tell when we are asked.
Yes, I do. Um, Maybe you remember this one. I've got two really fast stories.
That's
Do
good.
you remember when you invited me to your comedy troupe and you did? And I mean, I think I knew that maybe you had plans for me, but I didn't. I walked in pretty much clueless, and then I was in all of your skits, and then you took a video of it, and then you played it at a And then I was sitting in a crowd like a month later, and it was hilarious, by the way. You did so good.
You didn't know you were going to be in it? Like in the
I
show?
we never talked specifics. So I walked
Oh,
in
my
being
bad.
like, oh, I thought I was gonna hand off desserts and like smile. And then it's like, surprise, you're in all the sketches. It's funny. It's hilarious.
That's interesting. I remember it differently, but that is good to remember. Maybe that was the only way to lure you in, because if I said, come and be in the show, that might have scared you. So
No, it was awesome. It was an honor. It was a blast.
plus we got
Maybe
cupcakes.
another one is, I think this whole Food Network journey, like when I got that first phone call, I genuinely thought it was a prank phone call. Like, cause it was somebody saying, oh, do you want to be on Food Network? And I'm like, yes, I'm half, my daughter was 1 month old. So I was like dead tired, and I answered the phone call, and there was definitely a process of trying to figure out like who the person was, because I didn't trust that. But I like the other story better now that I say it out loud.
That's so
We'll stick with that one.
great. Yes. Plus the other story, like I say, we all ended up with cupcakes, which was fantastic.
Win-win.
But when you, and was that like back in, when was that first phone call asking you to be on? Would that be back in 2016 or somewhere back in
Something
there?
like, 2017, I think, was the first one. Yeah.
Because prank calls and the messy calls that we get now are more prevalent, and back then it wasn't as prevalent. So that's lucky it worked out, that you,
Right?
whatever they said to make you believe them. I'm glad that worked out.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been way too much fun, and now I definitely want a dessert. So I want to say that I'm honored to have chatted with you, JenBarney. And then remember, we can only be strangers once, even though we are friends. And I invite you to stay delightfully weird.
Thanks, Lisa. You guys have a wonderful time. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yep.